by the rivers of Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, family, and welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York, giving all honor, glory, and praise to the Most High, Supreme Intelligence of the universe, for allowing us all to wake up this morning, for allowing us all to be here. I would like to wish everyone an early Shabbat Shalom, praying that everyone has been well throughout this week, and I pray that the Most High God will continue to bless you in your endeavors, your thoughts, the things that you desire, and righteousness. Also praying that the Creator will continue to be with all those who listen to this program, who continuously, every week come on and give us your ear, or give the Nasik your ear. It's not gone on. It's not, how will you say it? It's not gone on blind eyes. It's noticeable, and we appreciate all of your support and all of the, like I said, the support that you've given us throughout the years is noticeable. So thank you all once again, and I pray that you will continue to support us. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. That's a beautiful way to support us. And don't forget to keep bringing your questions, which is very important to the show, which is very important for Nasik, to see what you're thinking about. It doesn't necessarily have to be on what he's speaking on. It could be on anything that you might have on your mind, anything in any part of the Tanakh that you might have on your mind. So once again, thanking you all, and I pray that everyone will learn something today, and I pray that the Most High God will bless you all. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah, who will take us through the Sidra of the day. Shalom, Nasik. How are you?
All right, great. First of all, I'd like to give praises to the Supreme Intelligent Universe, God of my forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And then due respect to the platform on D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Ariel and Saska, to the whole Sifu Zael, to the Princess Chief, Rabbinate Maureen, Kohanim, greet you all, and visitors to the channel, greet you all, and tell my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem, early Shabbat Shalom. And I just start off with Adonai, Septai, Titaku, Fia, Hiti, Atheka, O Lord, down my lips, and my mouth should declare that praise. I want to address one question that was sent out, and I must tell the brother that normally I do this program on Yom Echad, on with Jacob Yom Rishon. So I really don't see the questions till I'm up in the morning, and we normally start around 7 o'clock to do the program, 7 a.m. Eastern time. So I just happened to spot your question. I checked Mosaic Shabbat. I checked it and I see the question. Then I check again before I start. So, and one of the question was in reference to was it Moses, would you consider him a murderer? And he said, and I thank the brother for saying I did address it, but maybe I didn't address it adequately enough. So, but since I didn't look over the review, he slew the man, and I think I might have made it that way, said it that way more so than murder. I think he slew the Egyptian, and it would be according to us, before certain laws is written out. I wouldn't, say that his intention was to actually murder the individual, I don't know. I'm not clear. It uses a strange word in that particular portion, is YAH, and I'm not familiar with that word there in reference to, but it's translated as he struck them, So, and the word murder is not used there, whereas, where it, where Qaim is mentions like he's, slaughtered, his brother in a sense. So I'm not familiar with it. I had to look and see other viewpoints on reference to the word. If you pursue that and you get some information, I would like for you to share that on in the chat. So his intention was to check, and I would say, though it turned out to be a capital offense against the Egyptians, it's in the verse ahead, they use the word makeh, which is actually striking, which I'm familiar with that action, especially children too, when they don't get a marker, so we understand that's a beat down, but that's an unusual word. It could be the only time it's used in the scriptures. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to research it, but when he spot an incident, then it trigger a reaction. So he spotted an instance at the time when he seen his brothers out there. One of the brothers being beat down beaten by an Egyptian. That he looked this way and that way, and it said he turned and looked for thus and listen thus, which cold, and when he turned and looked, then he knew automatically what he was about to do gonna be something not tolerated and considered illegal according to Egyptian authority in that sense. So, and I've say the Egyptian authority because this Egyptian beating a Hebrew, so he's not worried about being seen doing what he's doing. So when he struck the man, was his intent to really kill him all out, or not? And that just happened to be the results of it. So, and rescue one individual, and being able to get a chance to check. Let me just take a moment and go at the rescue mission on the very next day in that same. I was in that chapter, I think, chapter 2 of Exodus, and we'll go over that. That's a moment. Let me see here. All right. And the next day, in the 14th verse, I use the word hariti, harita, rather, harita, in that sense. So, the word harog means to kill itself. That's what it means to kill. And that's not in the commandments. It's to use the word, lo tazak, which is not the murder. So if, if that's the word that's used there, then it will imply that even the guy who most had to be the guy that was getting beat down anyway, is that he's an individual recognized that Moses wasn't intent on a murder in that sense. So that would be my view. But you can always discuss it with other people and get other views in reference to that. And I'd like for you to get back and tell me what you come up with. All right. So now, as to proceed a little bit, we're going to be in the Sidra YAH, which means and I appeared, which is the creator CHOKMAH, he appeared. And strange incidents, but I'm we say, well, God appeared. Isn't God always present? But where? If God's everywhere, he's only where you allow him to be in. So when you find that, and that starts at the 6th chapter, 2nd verse, and it goes all the way to the end of the 9th chapter. And in this particular portion, they have a 7 plagues that's presented in this particular portion. But before that, I want to go back a little bit because I just want to highlight a couple things from the previous one of early part of Shemot. And before we get into this particular portion. And one of the things I like to say, well, his first encounter with the Creator was at the bush. And it's a lot of symbolisms concerning the bush burning. But one of the things, I use an analogy according to a departed good friend of mine that just departed. And it couldn't apply to everyone. But I'll use that as far as my eulogy concerning a brother that passed, a chief man that passed. And this eulogy, I mean, an analogy I use can be used for everyone, and you know, in certain stances of places. And what I said was that when Moses seen the bush on fire and not being burnt and consumed, not being consumed, then he said, I will turn to see this great sight. He's seen it already, but it was his turn that made a great difference. And he knows, even when we mentioned about his first turning, it's looking this way and that way. Before the instance that I just discussed concerning the Egyptian. And what's unique about the bush, you know, not just God speaking, but he saw, you know, the figure of an angel within the bush, you know, but God's called him, you know, from there. But it was a figure of an angel. And this is Moses' first encounter. But what's unique about the bush is that a bush has no roots. It has no territory that can say, I belong directly here. I'm going to be stable. I'm over here. I might be in this other spot and that spot, almost like a tumbleweed. A bush doesn't have the beauty and, you know, of a cedar. It don't bear any fruit if at that time when it's considered a bush. And also, a bush has thorns. So it appear not only nuisance, you know, where it become a nuisance, but it's unstable, have no particular location, but it's humble and it can't give a shade to anybody. And yet it is burning with fire, and the fire is not consuming it. And I use that as an analogy of some people have great Torah learning. They might have great wealth. They might be a scholar in linguistics, you know, a predominant leader. You know, you can find people like that. But when it comes to having, you know, the fire of God, and God tries the heart, then this is supposed to be a lesson for not only for Moses, but for all men to come behind them, is that it's not how much you know. And people don't care how much you know. They only want to know how much you care. So when you look at this, that first revelation, Moses looks in turn, and God showing that, all right, he heard the cry of the people when he just opened up to him. And when he opened up to Moses and explained the cry of the people, you know, because of reason and burdens, and he remembered the covenant, that they're not actually serving God to the degree that he wanted them to serve. They became pretty much acculturated with a lot of Egyptian doctrines. But what was deep inside them was actually the fire to say, I still have God in me. You know, and not that everybody stayed with the exact same God. We became very acculturated with a lot of Egyptian values and stuff, being there for a couple hundred years. So when we think about that we got to look at another individual, and you don't look at because they're not the greatest Torah scholar or they can't expound on a book like you are, is how devoted they are to this creator. And the devotion, that's when God weighs and judges the heart. So that is what the bush will represent symbolically. Moses saw it from afar, but he had to get close up. And then God said, take off your shoes before you stand on holy ground. Take off your shoes because now you need to become sensitive. Your shoes protect your feet. So you got to be more sensitive to look deep into another individual and say, I can see God in you. Most of us say there's no God in you. That's the normal thing we say. And so a lot of times it be our arrogancy. And people, I believe, will get along a lot better if they see the reflection of God in every human being, even if it's so deep down that you have to look. Now, we were talking about Pharaoh, and we're talking about the Exodus. And the Exodus, seems it always come up around Martin Luther King's day. And since it always come up around the time of Martin Luther King, not birthday as well as holiday, it wasn't planned when the sages planned with Sidra to be should be read on a weekly basis. Martin Luther King wasn't in mind, and so and neither the parents of Martin Luther King planned that to have it on that particular time that this particular thing is read. But he quote a lot from the Exodus story, and he make a lot of analogies of an oppression and oppressed people. So within that, he makes those analogies a lot, referring to the different bondages and stuff like that. And so other people as well, strangely enough, other people around the world use the same portion. So what is so significant about it is that when you have an oppressed people anywhere in your society, then it's either justice for all or justice for none. It's never both ways. So this is one of the most important parts of our history and our legacy as being the children of Israel. So Moses had to first grasp that lesson. And one of the things is we're going to find before I go forward is that Moses himself didn't want the job. He fled. He went to assist already, and that assistance didn't work out in his favor. He wound up being a fugitive. Pharaoh was okay with him, raising him up in his house, and his very name is I was drawn from the water. Well, the edict was to put everybody in the water and drown all the males. So it's always an issue. And then, like I said, I made a question before when they say they charge people to put all males in the water. It didn't make a distinction between Hebrews and non-Hebrews. So, and we know that edict only lasts for a short while because first was put people to work. Second, when it made it, it made they work hard. Then third, they go ahead and destroy the males, and then later charges people to carry this out. So this, so when they enslave a people, put them to work, then enslave them, make them work with rigor, then there was a process. It didn't happen rapidly as we would think. Though we read it in a few words and a few chapters here, all this didn't happen rapidly. And when we find out that God wanted Moses to go, we know he was reluctant to go. And within that period of time, he talked about, he have, a speech impediment. All right. And we know that after God tell him he could help him out with that, then God tell him, he tells God, well, send who you going to send. So we know, and God gave him some signs and sent Aaron. And like I said before, why send Aaron to assist if God said, I'm going to be with your mouth? Those are some things to think about. Why send him in the first place? If God going to be with my mouth, do I need another mouthpiece to say what I had to say coming from God? All right. And so, and within the last portion too, he stops on the end. And before we go forward, I want to bring out something to think about. In the 17th verse of the third chapter of Exodus, and it says, and this is from God speaking, and I have said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt unto the land of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites unto a land flowing with milk and honey. Now that was in the third chapter, 17th verse. When you think about and look at this, we only talking about 6 nations now, but yet we're told that we're going to drive out 7 nations. So why it dropped to 6? We made an allegiance with one of them. We made an allegiance with them, but it was supposed to be 7 nations, and each one was greater than us in that sense. So a lot of times when you get back about 7 nations greater and mightier than us as an individual, then it comes to say, okay, I understand that. What happened to one of those nations? All right, and we know here it was given signs and stuff like that. So, in the previous chapter, and one of the things about when God, addressed himself, and because he'd say, well, I need to know what's your name. And that's a very important point from the previous Sidra, because I need to know if the contract that you made with my forefathers, are you the same guy? Are you the same God? I wasn't there. So I need to know, are you the same God? And the contract's still in effect. And as he gave him the name, Yah, Share, Yah, but most books translate I am that I am, which is a weak translation, is I will be that I will be. You can't confine me to a particular time, location, or idea, concept. That's the kind of God we serve. All right, as we go further, and that's going back, just highlighting some points, that one of the first signs, yes, in the 4th chapter, and Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? And he said, a rod. All right, that's from the 2nd verse of the 4th chapter. And he said, cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it. And the Lord said unto Moses, put forth thy hand and take it by the tail, and put forth, and he put forth his hand and laid hold of it, and it became a rod in his hand. So the use of the term nakash in this particular instance here, later on, it's not using the word nakash when he had to demonstrate. But what's interesting is that he said, grab it by the tail. That's exercising a certain type of faith, because the head is the dangerous part. I need to lock that down. I don't need to lock the tail down, because the tail it's not going to cause me a problem. It's his mouth that's going to cause me a problem. So much so that, Jacob and his blessing concerning Dan, the tribe of Dan, bited the heel of the horses so the rider could fall off back. So it's the mouth that was actually a problem. And yet he had to exercise a certain type of faith that you grab it by the tail and it will turn back. So you don't recognize automatic ready. Why not touch them out? Why not grab their head? Going to be because you speaking about a people prematurely about their faith. So, and he was giving, the other thing about other sign, and when he was talking about put his hands, in his bosom, and it come out, like Sarah, white as snow, and put it back. Now, once, and that takes a little faith there. Once you told to put your hand inside someplace, out of your sight, and it come out looking, with Sarah, really vile looking, stuff like that, something altogether that's shocking. You have to exercise another bit of faith to put it back. That same hand that you become appalled at, back on your flesh, inside your bosom, on your heart. And then that's getting water and pour it out and turn to blood. So he goes after a while, and I just want to focus on this last part of the 4th chapter, 10th verse. I'm going to bring this up just a little bit. It said, and Moses said unto the Lord, O Lord, I am not a man of words, neither hitherto nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, for I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. And the Lord said unto him, Who hath made man's mouth, or who maketh a man dumb, or deaf, or seeing, or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and I'll teach thee what thou shalt say. Speak what thou shalt speak. All right. And so therefore, we go back in the 13th verse, and he said, O Lord, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him whom thou wilt send. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, Is not Aharon thy brother, the Levite? I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee. And when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. So it goes on and say, and the reason is because we get a repeat in the next Sidra. And thou shalt speak unto him and put the words in his mouth, and I will be with thy mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you what ye shall do. And he shall be thy spokesman unto the people. And it shall come to pass that he shall be to thee a mouth, and thou shalt be to him a God's steed. And thou shalt take in thy hand this rod, wherewith thou shalt do the signs. All right, so I'm gonna stop in that area. But we question still: if God gonna be with his mouth, why Aaron? Why do they need it for 2 people? All right, I'd like to just bring this out just for thought. 2 or more establish a matter. So normally, when a guy prophesies to the nation of Israel, it's always whether it's prophecy gonna come to true or not, as a spokesman on behalf of God. So it's not normally 2 prophets saying the same thing. But here you have 2 adversaries that's coming in the name of God with the same message to establish it. So this is some food for thought as we go forward. And we know that Moses stopped at the end, and God sought to kill him. And then his wife Zipporah, who was along with him with the children, and he got to say, well, okay. And I'm just bringing out these points to go forward because there was just so much, that that I couldn't do it last time, and I'm gonna try to get a good piece of YAH, is that how is it that you have one animal, all right, a donkey, one animal. You got a donkey. You got your wife, your 2 sons, and whatever victuals they got. And you walking to Egypt on a mission that was told it's not going to work out the first time. Then sometimes you wonder, say, well, okay, what was on his mind? What was on Moses' mind? You went to get permission from your father-in-law, and then you still take your family to a mission, an area that you fled from, even though God said all the people that sought your life are dead, on a mission to witness brutality. That don't sound right. But those are some things to think about as you move forward, in that area. And when God sought to slay him, then Zipporah figured out how to save him. So she circumcised a son. So he had 2 sons. So one of them was circumcised, and the other one wasn't circumcised. There's always a discussion concerning that, but I just want to bring that out. And she made a statement, and from that point on, we find that he sent her back, and we know he actually sent her back when we lead again to the Sidra of Yisrael, that he had sent her back. There's a lot of different areas where when he met Aaron, why are you bringing them there to a place where we're going to be hardship? So this is something to consider in that area there. And then how did she know? I always said, bring that up. How did she know that this would be the situation to save Moses' life? So we read her name a few times, and we know she's the wife of Moses, but we don't read where God actually spoke to her directly, what kind of insight she had. But a good woman will save a man's life. That's a man, will save his life. So it seems that Moses' life is constantly being saved by females. His mother, the daughter of Pharaoh, his sister contribute, and now his wife. All that he had to have a lot of gratitude for the women that were responsible in his life. But that's another story. I just want to bring those out. And then after that, he was supposed to talk to the elders. That means we had a community. We had a leadership. Elders are supposed to be people that's actually more a guide to the side instead of a sage on the stage. So that means that they give advice. They oversee. They carry certain history and legacy with them. How things were, how things should be. And also, certain words that Moses used and terminology, they remember historically. God would take account of them, what Joseph had said when he left. So after that, we know he meets the king of Egypt, and he talked about a feast to the Lord in the wilderness. And then Pharaoh in the fifth verse of the fifth verse of the fifth chapter. No, excuse me. In the fifth chapter, In the fifth chapter, the second verse, it said, and Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord that I should hearken unto his voice, or let Israel go? I know not the Lord, and moreover, I will not let Israel go." And they said, "The God of the Hebrews has met with us. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days' journey into the wilderness, and sacrifice unto the Lord our God." lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. So, well, I didn't read that, prior, and that God said, "I'm gonna fall on the children of Israel with pestilence and the sword if we don't come to sacrifice." But this brings out a strong point that if you got a God that demands you come and observe a sacrifice, and all ancient ideology, if you believe your God demanded you to do certain things or else there's consequences, then every nation recognized that if you disobey your God, there's consequences. We know even in the book of Jonah that when the Jonah was asked by the sailors, what's the cause, away from him, what's the cause of all this stuff? And he said he's the cause because he tried to flee from God. They knew automatically. And this years, centuries later, they knew automatically, say, oh, no, you can't do that. And they idol worshipers at the time. Idol worshipers recognize you don't flee from God. No matter what kind of God you think you are, their concept is if it's a God, a supreme being, then how you gonna outrun him? How you gonna hide from him? And you're gonna create a crime. So they recognize already that he's a fugitive and he's wrong. So we got to try to get him back to shore, to get him off this boat. Get him off the boat, even after he told him to throw him overboard. They said, no, we got to get you back to shore because you committed a crime. I don't want to compound the crime by trying to murder you. So this is, this is a powerful statement that they make into Pharaoh, but Pharaoh made a tough statement concerning God. I don't know. Like a lot of people don't know the true and living God, but Pharaoh said, I don't know that God, and why should I listen to that God? And understandably, and not advocating for Pharaoh, but understandably, if you are cruel and hard, all right, and you and I got to remind people that this is not the Pharaoh that saw Moses' life. This is another Pharaoh, the son of that particular Pharaoh. So if you the new Pharaoh and an old Pharaoh came up with new policies, your father came with new policies, you kept those same policies in place. And now you even got more arrogant because now when you get used to oppressing, it feels like the norm because I do it so much. It became a norm. So this is some of the things that you must consider going forward. All right. And so why should I listen to God? It's been a while. The old policies my father handled, nobody came and got them out. Then if something don't seem to be broke, why should I further try to fix it? I'm moving on with that. Because you say so, y'all two say so, you ain't coming with an army. All right. And so therefore, he made their burdens heavy and said the people are lazy. They want time off. Most people in the ancient culture figure as Israelites, you got so many days you take off. You got the Shalosh Regalines with different other days in between that. And you got every Shabbat that you off. And then sometimes in ancient times, some people would take off on Rosh Chodesh every month. So you got so many days that you off that people that really don't want to work. You tend to be a lazy people. So why would they need to go that far to do this and take time off? And he increased the work. So we know he increased the work. All right. And then after that, we come back and talk about their daily tasks, which should be diminished. because now they lighten up the Egyptians' role and gave that role to the Israelites, and also they had to still produce the same amount of material of bricks. So when we look further, and going to the end of this particular portion, and it worked in bricks, and they met, and it goes on to say, and the officers of the children of Israel did see that they were set on metrics when they said, "You should not diminish aught from your bricks, your daily task." So they recognized that, because say, well, you got that much time that you can worship. Don't you know to come and congregate on Shabbat is a luxury? It's an opportunity. It's a serious privilege, because you can't worship and pray to God unless you have time. You can't think about God unless you have time. One of the first things when we can deal with the Exodus, the first thing we do is mark time. So as we go further into this area, it says, and it met Moses and Aaron, and who stood in the way as they came forth from Pharaoh. And they said unto them, "The Lord look upon you and judge, because ye have made our Savior to be abhorred in the eyes of Pharaoh, in the eyes of his servants, to put a sword in their hand to slay us." So they saying, look, you cause things to get bad. And now they didn't meet God. They just believed what Moses and Aaron presented to them. But yet they felt, now you made our God look bad. Made him despicable, and Pharaoh going to take it out on us because you made him look bad. Well, we all supposed to be down with the program. They was, they was okay with that. They believed. And it goes on to say, 22nd verse, and Moses returned unto the Lord and said, Lord, wherefore hast thou dealt ill with this people? Why is it that thou hast sent me? For since I came to Pharaoh to speak in thy name, he dealt ill with this people, neither hast thou delivered thy people at all. So Moses just talking about it again. Why you sent me? And the Lord said to Moses, now thou shalt see what I would do to Pharaoh. By a strong hand shall he let them go, and by a strong hand shall he drive them out of his land. Now we're going to YAH and open up in the YAH. In the sixth chapter, second verse. And the Lord spoke to Moses and said unto him, I am the Lord. I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob as God Almighty, but by my name, and he used the tetragrammaton YAH, I made me not known unto them. But so now let's deal with this here. Fourth verse. El Shaddai, God Almighty. Also Shaddai is breast. I'm a nurturing God. As a provide for their need. That's what they knew me as. In other words, that's how they see me in their life. They wasn't under oppression. They wasn't under tyranny. It just was survival mode and going wherever I sent them. And for them, and we take the root of, just take instead of saying Shaddai, just say die. Die itself means enough. We say, a lot of people say that in the part of the Haggadah, this would have been enough, So the word die, the very core of the word Shaddai, is I got enough. Especially if it's come from El Shaddai, the God that provides enough. So it was great that we have a God, and that's what they recognized. They didn't look for anything beyond what they needed to exist. And they wasn't looking for comfort, but they had a certain type of comfort, So this basically what it was. When Jacob even had his first encounter, said, food to eat, clothes to wear, and bring me back to my father's house in peace. I didn't ask for riches. I didn't ask to be a great ruler. So that just those things alone was enough. Can we understand when it is proper to say, I have enough coming from God? So these are things. I mean, we always pray because we want a little more, yours truly included. But but be able to get to the point where say, I had enough. That's is great in that sense. And Yaakov had did that when Esau said, that he's great, and Yaakov said when he first meet after the return that I have enough. All right. So when we go forward, it says, and I have established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land of their sojourners, wherein they sojourn. And moreover, I heard the groaning of the children of Israel, whom the Egyptians keep in bondage. I have remembered my covenant. Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will deliver you from their bondage, and I will redeem you with the outstretched arm and with great judgments, and I will take you to me for a people, and I will be your God, be to you a God, and ye shall know that I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land. I brought you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. All right. So now, when we think about those things from 4 to 7, they're inclusive. Use 4 expressions that they say all the time, and normally, get the Hebrew part here. Yeah. So normally it's, it says, Hoseti, in the sense that, bring you out. All right. So bring you from under the burdens of the Egyptians. That's number 1. And then, when they say exalt you, all right, save you, all right, a great deliverer in that sense. I will save you. And then it said what? From slavery. All right. So you're not going to be a slave, and then quality, which is a great thing. So now I'm going to redeem you. So now I'm not just going to, bring you from under the burdens. I'm not just going to, save you from slavery. I'm going to say now that you belong. If I redeem you, that means I give you a sense of belonging, and you belong to me, because I'm the Redeemer. So therefore, if I'm going to redeem you, you feel like you don't belong anywhere, you feel out of place in the world, but I'm going to give you a status of belonging. That's important. And then when it gets down to the fourth one, Lakati, and I'll take you for a nation, to be a nation under me. So now, be your God. All right. So therefore, we have a purpose. We're not just supposed to just run amok. We're not supposed to just be about doing what we want in life. We're not supposed to be focusing on our will. And though Israelites have certain aims and ambitions, it's like everybody in the world have aims and ambitions, what they want to pursue in life. But your pursuit should be aligned with what you can do to serve God better. That's what your pursuit should be about. And as we go further, and Moses had to retort, when they first got created, finished saying, I bring you unto the land concerning that which I lift my hand to give it to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and I will give it you for a heritage. I am the Lord. And Moses spoke so unto the children of Israel, but they hearkened not unto Moses for impatience of spirit and for cruel bondage. Shortness of ruach is as it's described in Hebrew. one of the things is that you had the 4 cups of wine or grape juice on Pesach Seder. And we had the 4 cups of wine and grape juice on Pesach Seder. You have the area where that most people would say, okay, why the 4 cups? And the 4 cups is taken from those expressions, the 4 expressions that I just enumerated for, that's used on during the Pesach Seder. But what's interesting, they and you find that from the Jerusalem Talmud in that sense, and they get a reason why they use the 4 cups. According to the people in Babylon, they use 5, and it's because even numbers were considered a bad omen from that region of Babylon. The ancient people said you can always keep an odd number, odd number, odd number. And so when we think about odd numbers, we think about something significant. But this is what they believe in. So they, though they had these expressions, that they gave a name later on as part of a custom to the 5th cup, and they call it, the Kos Eliyahu, the cup of Elijah. When we think about that, it shows a lot of influence from sometime our background about different things, and they supported with, you could support almost every ideology with some kind of logistical jargon. But when we think about that 5th cup, that's what they say now is for Elijah, because then the last thing is to bring us into the land. So that generation, we know, that was 20 years old and upward, never got into the land per se. Only those that was younger. So, but this is what they say. And then some people allude to bring us into the land as the last final turn to bring us into the land. So that's why they talk about the cup of Elijah as well, because we were in the land, get put out. We're in the land, get put out. So therefore, when we come back into the land, we'll never get put out. So that's when they refer to Elijah, supposed to be the prophet, come back. So this is just some things they highlight in the Pesach Haggadah, which is the narration of a telling of a story. So, and they draw from there. Also, the children of Israel don't want to hear anything. So now we get to the 10th verse of this particular chapter, of the 6th chapter of Exodus. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Go and speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that he let the children of Israel go out of his land. And Moses spoke before the Lord, saying, Behold, the children of Israel have not hearkened unto me. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who am of uncircumcised lips? Now, didn't he say that before in the first meeting? But he used the word different this time, aral, sephathaim, aral sephathaim. So they use that word there as uncircumcised, but aral also means to be shut, have shut lips in that sense. So, most times we think about circumcision, but it's also to be shut, closed off. And that's another term for the word aral. And before he used the term, kaber, which means heavy. And also the word kaber also means, in a sense, that it means that kaber is also like a liver. All right. So now, yes, if we think of the king of Egypt, who's not named here, who think of himself as a god, and that's why the Torah of Ezekiel is saying that, he created now and he created himself. The concept in the Torah about a self-existing one. So he put himself on par with the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. He put him on that level there, the eternal. that I'm self-existent. I created the now. And people worship the now, and I created the now. So therefore, I'm self-existence. And this is almost like one of Caligula's things in history, when he said, how that goes. I was before I was before the last standing stars, and there, the last standing stars before the last standing star. I'm like all man, which is no man. Therefore, I am God. So if it's before before the stars, I was before the first standing stars. I'm like all man, which is no man. Therefore, I am God. So he said before even thing was created, I'm him. That's Caligula. So these are megalomaniacs in that sense. But you think of the word king, Melech. The acronym for the word Melech, Moach means a brain. That's how you say brain in Hebrew, Moach. All right. Lamed, you could spell it with 3 letters, Mem, Lamed, and then Kaf. Lamed is for lab, the heart. So, and Pharaoh's brain and his heart, that he think, then God delivers the heart of an individual. It's hardened. And with the word kabir, hardened is like lead. He don't want to change. So when Moses used that thing, and the word liver is like, so you think about the kabir, the liver, because now Pharaoh being in his brain, in his mind, I'm dealing with my own heart, and anger is in the ancient world was considered part of the liver. The same word kabir for liver, and therefore I won't be moved. And most people know, I think they're trying to prove it today, prove it or got some relationship to it medically, that when you stay angry, hostile all the time, that you start to destroy some of your body parts, and one of the first ones to go is usually your liver. So this is just some things I'm not a doctor in that sense. So I try to, these things I heard and learned. So I'm just sharing it. So he used that argument already. And he used it a second time. So he used the argument in Midian. And then now he's using the argument, the same one he used in Midian, he's using it in the land of Egypt. But he haven't stopped there. And he goes and said, and the Lord spoke unto Moses and to Aaron and gave them a charge unto the children of Israel and unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring the children of Israel out of the land. In other words, that verse I find interesting because suppose the Israelites don't want to leave. Suppose they want to stay. We read right here that y'all guys going to have to be ready to leave. I'm not doing this where you got an option to refuse, because I have a contract, a promise with your ancestors. So you're not going to stay there. You're going to have to leave. And let Pharaoh know that these people are going to leave. So it's not only Pharaoh had to be shown that these people you're going to let these people go, but also the contract that I got, y'all not going to allow me, I'm not going to allow you to mess that up. So this is some of the things we get from there. And then it goes on to the chief men and the different individuals, but and it goes to that's why I always say 4 generations. And again, and when you find in 4 generations, you find in there that Lewi, the head of that tribe, he lived to be 137 years old. All right. Moses' father lived to be 137. All right. But Moses' grandfather, Kohat, lives to be 133. So you get a time frame. Like I say, and I always tell people to pay attention to the time frame, because we didn't actually stay in the land for 430 years. Not in the land. 210. If you want to stretch Josephus, 215. But that's all we've been, because just doing the math alone, we wasn't in the land that long. So what we have, and like I said before, and I always go over it because I always get these questions again about that. 4 generations, 400 years, 4 generations, round number. So what the 4 generations? We got 4 generations. Just look at those names, because we talking about Lewi, Kohath, Amram, Moshe. Not count Jacob. Lewi is the first generation that's there. Jacob only stayed 17 years. All right. Then you got his son Kohath. Then you got Amram. Then you got Moses and Aaron. And what's interesting is that it goes on to give you the thing, the wife of and identify the names in this particular chapter. Moses' father, and say he married his aunt, right? Which is something that was okay back then. And when it goes down and gives Aaron, it talk about his wife, and in this particular portion, and he married somebody from the tribe of Judah, which is Elisheba, the daughter of Menadab, which happened to be the sister of Nachshon. And then what's interesting is that it mentioned Pinchas in this particular portion, in around the 25th verse. And Eleazar, Aaron's son, took him one of the daughters of Putiel to wife, and she bore Pinchas. Then the next verse says, these are the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites according to their families. These are that Aaron and Moses, to whom the Lord said, bring out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt according to their hosts. All right. So now, what's interesting is that we read about Pinchas. Read about him 40 years before he actually do his act, considered the prince of Zimri, the thing of Midian. 40 years, early at this particular time. We read about that. And they're talking about who are the leaders of it. And you know what's strange enough? They include Moses, but they don't include his children. So, and talking about, so his children had no leadership amongst the tribe of Lewi at all. That's something interesting to consider going forward. But I don't want to focus on that. There's a couple other points I want to bring out. So now, after that, okay. And then it goes on again, and it says in the 28th verse, and it came to pass on the day when the Lord spoke unto Moses in the land of Egypt, that the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, I am the Lord, speak unto thou unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, all that I speak unto thee. And Moses said before the Lord, behold, I am of uncircumcised lips, and how shall Pharaoh hearken unto me? You keep replaying that same thing. And the Lord said to Moses, see, I have set thee and guards thee to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. This first time you read about the Israelites being called a prophet, even though we know Moses is actually a prophet. But he said, put him as a guard to Pharaoh. Pharaoh think of himself as a god, then I'm going to let Pharaoh see you as a god on his same level. And Aaron going to be like, the spokesperson, a prophet. A prophet is a spokesperson. And thou shalt speak all that I command thee. And Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he let the children of Israel go out of his land, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. So I want to give a good picture because you're going to see it a little bit different in Hebrew when you look at it. Moses was supposed to, at this time, when he goes to speak with Pharaoh, I'm going to speak, he's going to hear God. And when God tells Moses, Moses will tell Aharon in that order. I'm going to repeat what Moses told him. But as a Navi, I got to give you the sense and the meaning of what was said. So that kind of reminded me how Joseph acted with his brothers. I'm speaking to an interpreter, and you speak to those my brothers there through an interpreter. Here, Aaron is acting as an interpreter. A Nabi is an interpreter. He first they bring what God say and explains so you can understand the depths of the meaning of what God say. But they first bring the word. So that's what a Nabi is, as a spokesperson, not one that predicts the future. And we find that Abraham was a spokesperson too. So this is that's almost like when Joseph did that to his brothers with an interpreter. Now it's role reversal. So now we got a spokesperson. So Aaron's job is much more complex. Moses only supposed to say what God say once to Aharon. Aharon must repeat verbatim what is said. Now I got to give you the sense of what is said. That's what an Nabi does, and this is what Aaron's role was. So and so that puts Moses on like, Pharaoh, you can't talk to me directly. Don't we see it sometimes we forget about this point here that like Pharaoh's actually talking to Moses directly, on some areas there. Now, once in a great while, you will find that. But when Moses had to bring a message from God, it always went that route. Only went that route when it came from a message from God. So this is some of the things here that we find and when we take notice of. And then and when you say about harden Pharaoh's heart, why would God harden his heart? And a lot of people think about that. They say that's wrong. How a man going to relent if you harden his heart? That's always the question that come up. But the thing is that how can I be apologetic if you force me to be apologetic? And I'm genuine apologetic. You got my arm in all kind of bar locks and stuff like that, and say you're sorry, say you apologize, say you regret this. All right. Then if I said from the pain, I'm not genuine. So the thing is that being true to himself. So when you talk about make his heart already hard, and you find it with that is that when you talk about Pharaoh's heart, use different terms and stuff like that within the scripture. I think it's three different terms that's used here throughout the period of time of the Exodus. But one of the things is that Pharaoh hardened his own heart, and that means this is what you want to do. In order to come and talk about, I'm gonna make a teshuvah, I want to make a repentance. I got to do this because this is what I want to do, not because you put the pressure on me. And so, for God hardened his heart in the sense that I don't want the plagues to make you give up. I want you to give up because you understand the reasoning why you should give up. I want you to give up because you desire to let them go, because you know you're doing wrong. You know you're treating my people bad, and you know you don't want my people. So you got to come to grips with that. But if I slap you around, okay, you got it. And this is why the hardening the heart is necessary, because a true Ba'al Teshuvah gotta be a free will. Not I will and it won't. A free will. And that's one of the purposes of hardening his heart. and it gives the age of Moses. But before we get to that point, and you're talking about signs and wonders. So it's not just plagues. Like, people say a plague, there's no defense against. Certain things you could defend against. But all of them was not plagues. That's why they're talking about signs and wonders. Because now I need you to know that not only am I going to work within the realms of what you consider natural laws of nature, I'm going to let you know that I'm going to work outside of what you consider the natural laws of nature as a God. So that way I have to not just hit you with plagues. I got to hit you with things that's beyond what you say you do. And as we go further here, we get the contest. When he was 80 years old and still before Pharaoh, we get this particular contest here where Moses and Aaron's in front of Pharaoh, and in that same 7th chapter. And this one of the wonders, and this is the way God told him to deal with it. And the Lord's in the 8th verse, 7th chapter, and the Lord spoke unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, when you shall speak unto, when Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, show a wonder for you, then thou shalt say unto Aaron, take thy rod and cast it down before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and they did so, as the Lord has commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh, and before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called his wise men and the sorcerers, and they also, the magicians of Egypt, did in like manner with their secret arts. For they cast down every man his rod, and it became a serpent. And I use the word tanim. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them as the Lord had spoken. All right. So now the Creator know he ain't gonna listen already, because they was able to demonstrate. Now I'm just gonna go fast forward because in there just to highlight that when you get to certain things in there in the play, because the magicians of Egypt did certain things as well. Even though a rod, it's rod, not staff. A staff is a support. A rod is a symbol of authority. So their authority was swallowed up by the authority that Aaron had in the rod. And you notice he called the rod Aaron's rod at that time too. Even though Moses had it all from the beginning, it's considered Aaron's rod. So just going forward for when we get later on about, who's going to be the Kohen and stuff like that. So what's interesting is that when this happened at the time, we got certain things Aaron's involved, and we talk about 7 plagues. So I'm just going to fast run through that. 7 miracles: striking the river, and it's turned into blood. Then you got calling forth the frogs. Egyptians participate in those 2 things as well. Calling forth, but they couldn't deal with that. They couldn't change the river back, and they couldn't, get rid of the frogs. And what's similar when you deal with the frogs, it's something similar. The frogs not only in the people, was in the dough. When we left Egypt, we left with our dough on our back. So you can see some certain similarities in that area. We left with the dough on our back, but the frogs in the dough. And then we talk about lights. The lights itself was considered the actual, the magicians couldn't do that. They say, okay, this is the finger of God. They recognized that and they stopped participating. But as we go further into the plagues, we talk about so we talk about the 3rd plague. So when we get into the 4th plague, it was the roe, which is wild beast or whatever it is. It's a mixed understanding what that is. Then that's we deal with, we see what happens with that. And then when we get to that, after that particular plague, we get to what they call, let me make sure I got this right here, because I'm just going to skip through some of the stuff. All right. All right. Well, so a robe, because wild animals. Then you get the disease of the cattle. All right. In that sense. All right. So now, when we get the disease of the cattle, all right, and then we come with the boils, after that area. What's interesting is when we get to the disease of the cattle. All right, now when we talk about the third plague, we talk about the third plague. The third plague, the magicians say, this is the finger of God. When we get to the disease of the cattle, it says this is the hand of God. So now it's showing that things amped up because it got more drastic. Because now when you got the finger of God in the third plague, you got the hand of God being involved in the actual fifth plague. And then we got the thing of boils. So Aaron participated in 4 of the plagues. Him and Moses' assistant. Where they put the hand, fill their hands with ashes, and all each one get 2 handfuls of ashes, and they put them in one pile, and Moses was able to throw it up and comes into boils. So what we find here is that not only you got to talk about the finger of God when it gets to the third plague, you got the hand of God that's talking about the fifth plague. And Aaron participated in bringing about some things in 4 of those plagues. So now people would think, and you learn a lesson, people would think, oh, Aaron and Moses, they're phenomenal. The lame person would say, they got some serious powers. Their powers supersede that of the Egyptians. So if their powers supersede that of the Egyptians, they got some very, very serious powers going on there. But it's only those particular plagues that's enumerated that they had hands on. After that, certain plagues, Aaron had no hands on that. Moses had no hands on it. This strictly is above that. So the people in the land and the Israelites won't think Aaron and Moses got some serious supernatural power. And that's one of the things that's brought out in within this in a particular plague when we deal with that. And then as I say often, that when we get down to every plague, every third plague, the third incidents that happen, they get no warning. The first and the second, warning. Third time, no warning. All right. The fourth and the fifth, warning. All right. Sixth, no warning. 7th, 8th, no warning. The 9th, no warning. And then the 10th plague is a warning. So that's going to be the pattern there. And let me just bring this to a close here. I just want to bring out this other little point. What's interesting is that Pharaoh would rather endure a night with frogs than to get rid of them right then. You figure if you got people on your team, you would say, get rid of the stuff that's caused me a problem. All right. And also God let him know that he kept them alive to endure. But when we get to the plague of hail, it's interesting, and I'm just going to read this part here, the plague of hail, which is very interesting, and because it changes the dynamics of what has been done concerning the plagues prior. In the 13th verse of the 9th chapter, Exodus in the Masoretic text, and the Lord said unto Moses, rise up early in the morning, stand before Pharaoh, and say unto him, thus said the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go, for that they may serve me. For I will this time send all my plagues upon thy person, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, that thou mayest know that there is none like me in all the earth. Surely now I have put forth my hand and smitten thee and thy people with pestilence, and thou hadst been cut off from the earth. But in very deed, for this cause have I made thee to stand, to show thee my power, and that my name may be declared throughout all the earth. So in other words, I could have wiped you out with one shot. I don't have to wait. I could have just got rid of you and let the people go. But I need you to know and acknowledge me. And not only that, throughout the world, acknowledge me. And therefore, I'm giving you time. And so it's not that quick. And that's why you able to endure that. Because one plague, can you imagine a week without water? And all these plagues don't happen in 10 days or 20 days. It takes about a year for all this to go down before we're ready, because now it needs time for the people of Israel to actually get themselves psychologically ready, spiritually ready to leave Egypt. And it goes on, and the Creator had promised the death of the firstborn at first, but he delayed that. And he never told Moses which plague can cause him to leave until that very end. And it goes on to say, as yet exaltest thou thyself against my people, that thou wilt not let them go. Behold, tomorrow this time I will cause it to rain very grievous hail, such as not been seen in Egypt since the day it was founded, even unto now. Now therefore hasten in thy cattle and all that thou hast in the field. For every man and beast that shall be found in the field and shall not be brought home, the hell shall come down upon them, and they shall die. He that feared the word of the Lord among the servants of Pharaoh made his servants and his cattle flee into the houses. And he that regarded not the word of the Lord left his servants and his cattle in the field. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch forth thy hand towards heaven, that thou mayest be hail in all the land of Egypt, upon man and upon beast, and upon every herb of the field throughout the land of Egypt. All right. And Moses stretched forth his rod towards heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail and fire ran down unto the earth, and the Lord caused to hail upon the land of Egypt. So there was hail and fire flashing up amidst the hail, very grievous, such as had not been seen in all the land of Egypt, since it became a nation. And the hail smote throughout all the land of Egypt, all that was in the field, both man and beast. And the hail smote every herb of the field and broke every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, there the children of Israel, where the children of Israel were, was there no hail. And Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron and said unto them, I have sinned this time. The Lord is righteous, and I and my people are wicked. Now, you can word that a different way, but I'm just going to leave it like that for now. I'm going to point out something. Entreat the Lord and let there be enough of these mighty thunderings in hell, and I will let you go, and ye shall stay no longer. And Moses said unto him, as soon as I am gone out of the city, I will spread forth my hands unto the Lord. The thunders shall cease, neither shall there be any more hail, that thou mayest know that the earth is the Lord's. But as for thee and thy servants, I know that you will not yet fear the Lord God. And the flax and the barley were unsmitten, for the barley was in the ear, and the flax was in the bloom. But the wheat and the spelt were not smitten, for they ripened not. They ripened late. And Moses went out of the city from Pharaoh and spread forth his hands unto the Lord, and the thunder and hail ceased, and the rain was not poured upon the earth. And when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunders were ceased, he sinned yet more and hardened his heart, he and his servants, and the heart of Pharaoh were hardened, and he did not let the children of Israel go, as the Lord had spoken by Moses. Now, I want to just point out one thing. I just read through there. There's a lot of information, but I want to point out in particular information. This plague here, this seventh plague that we talk about of hail, that's right. Why is it that God made a separation in the fourth plague between the children of Israel and the Egyptians. So the children of Israel had to get affected by the first three plagues. But from the fourth plague onward, children of Israel was not affected. So now, why is it that you're going to warn Pharaoh? Not only because he's getting ready to take life, because now, you're taking the life, and said to see if everybody will fear God and learn about God. So what you learn here is that some Egyptians recognize God. Everybody, some of the servants of the land of Egypt recognized this God thing, and it only made sense to bring their cattle and stuff in, because now you're talking about your economy. So now, why was such a thing of a warning when it gets to the seventh plague? Because not only because of death, but after this, Pharaoh recognized, you're righteous. You allow me to keep some of my people, because all my people could have been out there. All my cattle could have been out there. And every last one, I wasn't out there, but every last one of my cattle, every last one of my people, all of them could have been destroyed. And that's why I recognize your righteousness in there, because you didn't have to tell me this, because you didn't tell me about where people could be saved other than nothing happening in the land of Goshen. So with this, even with that mercy that showed there, Pharaoh had to say, yeah, God is right. Because when you fight somebody, you don't say, if you really, really want to hurt them, that this next punch going to go straight to your left eye. This next jab going to go to your midsection. You don't tell people that. So this is what showed me that God had concern for all people, even the Egyptians that was there. And that shows that everybody, you can't put everybody under one umbrella. Even the Egyptians that feared God and believed God said, I'm going inside. I'm going to take my cattle inside, because righteous name of God, life is peace. So, and it also let you know about time frame. And when we know about time frame, that's how you know it wasn't a quick couple weeks of plagues, that this thing took almost a cycle of a year. And that's because it tell you about the agriculture that's being brought here, about the barley, and it talk about the flat. Then it can tell you about the wheat haven't got here yet, and or the spelt have gotten here yet. So from just looking at those different areas like that, you say, well, this wasn't just 10 plagues, boom, 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 and about 10 or 20 days we out. This took a period of time because Israelites get themselves together. So I hope we got something out of what I said. Any mistakes been my own. I've been a little bit long-winded today. And I try not to be too much, loquacious next time in the future. And there's a lot more in the chapters to study. And any mistakes been my own. And in regards to the first question, I'll look it up. But I like the brother, I think, J. Don Israel, if he could come up with anything on that particular wording, it'd be greatly appreciated. And with that, I'll tell everybody, Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Aleichem.
Seek. Thank you all for tuning in. We pray that the Most High God will continue to bless and keep each one of you. Yah willing, we'll see each other again next week. Shalom, shalom. Hallelujah.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah.